Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today. You know, we're going to take a journey into this massive, ongoing, and honestly kind of hidden startup project that's operating right inside the United States government. Think about it. We all interact with the government digitally, right? Whether we're filing our taxes, renewing a passport, checking on benefits. But the actual machinery running those systems, it has undergone a radical, behind-the-scenes transformation over the last decade. Today, we're going to map out exactly how that happened, using data and reports straight from the source.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just take a second and wrap your head around this staggering number. $100 billion. According to a 2023 report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, that is exactly how much the federal government spent on information technology in the year 2022 alone. I mean, it is just an astronomical budget. But how that money was actually divided up? Well, that tells a very specific story about exactly where government tech was at the time. Because when you break down that spending, the contrast is pretty stark. Out of that massive $100 billion IT budget, only about $12 billion went toward modern cloud computing systems. So you might be wondering, where did the rest of it go? The vast majority was literally poured into just keeping highly inefficient, outdated legacy systems alive. We're talking about older architectures that completely lack the capability, the efficiency, and the security of modern platforms. Let's move to and see how this builds across our timeline today. We're going to trace this exact evolution. We'll start in 2014 with the formation of a specialized tech unit, move through the big legislative mandates of 2018, and go all the way up to the massive DOGE reorganization and the America by Design initiative of 2025.
Section 1. The Digital Service Catalyst.
To really understand where we are today, we kind of have to set the scene back in the early 2010s. This was a time when government tech was facing a major, incredibly public crisis. The real inciting incident here was the high-profile crash of the healthcare.gov website back in October 2013. When millions of Americans tried to log on to secure health insurance, the whole system just buckled. It was this glaring failure that proved a really important point. Technology failures are fundamentally government failures, and it absolutely forced the administration to completely rethink its digital strategy from the ground up.
So the Obama administration's solution to that crisis was creating the United States Digital Service, or the USDS, in August 2014. Originally led by former Google engineers, you can basically think of the USDS as this elite tech SWAT team housed right inside the executive office of the president. Their core mandate was simple but honestly incredibly daunting. They needed to improve and simplify digital services, fix broken federal websites, and essentially inject Silicon Valley problem-solving straight into the federal bureaucracy.
Section 2. The Modernization Mandate.
Fast forward a few years, and the government realized that relying on a tech SWAT team for endless rescue missions just wasn't a sustainable long-term strategy. They needed actual legislation with some teeth. So the crucial point is what Congress passed in 2018, the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act, or the 21st Century IDEA. This law legally required all public-facing federal websites to meet 8 specific modernization requirements. They had to be accessible, mobile-friendly, searchable, securely encrypted, driven by real user data, and totally consistent across the board. That is a massive order for these giant agencies.
Now, the act required these agencies to submit annual progress reports up until the end of 2023, which leads us to a very direct question. How do these federal agencies actually do when graded against these new legal standards? Well, a 2024 Government Accountability Office, or GAO, report gives us the exact breakdown. And looking at the 24 large agencies required to report in 2023, the results were, frankly, highly mixed. Only 7 agencies fully addressed all the requirements in their reports. A handful addressed some of them, 1 addressed none at all, and notably, 6 agencies didn't even bother to submit a 2023 report. The GAO noted that a major reason for this inconsistent compliance was a lack of early clear reporting guidance from the Office of Management and Budget, which was the agency overseeing the whole transition. Zooming out a bit, across the entire reporting period from 2019 to 2023, when the requirement sunsetted, there was only a 70% overall submission rate for these required annual reports. It really just shows that while the mandate was legally binding, actual on-the-ground compliance within the bureaucracy was a very steep uphill climb.
Section 3. High-impact tech wins.
Because while widespread compliance across the bureaucracy was definitely slow, the USDS itself was actively embedded in various agencies, generating some absolutely incredible results over its first decade. And this brilliantly illustrates the scale we're talking about. According to their 2024 impact report, USDS tech infrastructure directly facilitated the delivery of 749 million free COVID-19 tests to the American public. By optimizing systems and removing digital friction, they ensured vital public health resources reached people when they needed them most. Another massive win occurred within the Department of Veterans Affairs. By completely rebuilding and modernizing the VA.gov website, and actually doing it with the input of thousands of veterans, they enabled 18.25 million veterans to easily access their health and benefit services online. And just look at the direct results of that streamlined user experience on the Department of Veterans Affairs trust rating. Back in 2016, public trust stood at just 55%. But by 2024, following these digital overhauls, that trust rating completely skyrocketed to over 80%. It's a really powerful reminder that in our modern era, better digital design directly correlates with a massive increase in public trust in government institutions. Now, this next one might be the most impactful metric of all. Through their modernization efforts, over 400,000 eligible children across 29 states were able to regain their Medicaid coverage. What you should really take away from this is that we aren't just looking at dry IT metrics or server uptime stats here. These numbers represent real families, real kids, maintaining critical healthcare access simply because a website actually functioned the way it was supposed to.
Section 4. The New Design Era.
As we moved into 2025, the structure and philosophy of government tech underwent a dramatic, highly publicized shift. In January, the incoming Trump administration issued an executive order that reorganized and officially renamed the USDS to the U.S. DOGE service. This was done to align the technology unit directly with the newly established Department of Government Efficiency. The administration appointed billionaire Elon Musk to manage this change department in a much broader push for radical cost-cutting and rapid modernization.
This reorganization brought significant internal friction. Following a wave of government-wide layoffs in mid-February, where dozens of previous USDS employees were dismissed, 21 of the remaining 65 employees in the department chose to resign. In a joint resignation letter, they stated they would not use their skills to compromise core systems or jeopardize sensitive data. It was a very clear clash of cultures regarding exactly how government tech should be managed.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is if you look at the perspective from the broader tech industry, this push reflects a necessary evolution. Lee Becker, an executive at Medallia and a former VA chief of staff, noted that the administration's aggressive restructuring is seen by many in the industry as a long overdue acknowledgement. An acknowledgement that government digital tools must finally operate on par with the seamless, easy-to-use apps we rely on in our everyday lives.
This philosophy was then cemented in August 2025 with the America by Design Executive Order. This order established a national design studio and actually appointed the nation's very first chief design officer. The goal here is strict standardization. They want to reduce duplicative IT costs across the board and legally mandate a unified, high-quality user experience across all federal service providers by July 4, 2026.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely vital question. While the initial DOG agency framework might have a set expiration date, the structural demand for modern, efficient government technology is clearly here to stay. So, as these design standards become fully institutionalized, will the federal government finally be able to match the private sector's user experience? It's a challenge that will define how we all interact with our country for decades to come. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on that digital front door.